Hi, I'm Ina.
And I'm Bea.
And welcome to our podcast. So we are back for another episode of TREElogy. And before anything else, I would like to welcome my co-host for today. Kamusta, Bea?
Thank you, Ina. Okay lang naman ako maliban sa sobrang init sa Earth today. Gosh, parang naaalala ko tuloy si Chris Aquino, narinig halo-halo, chill talaga. Anyway, ano ba ang pag-uusapan natin for today's episode? Kasi on our first episode, syempre, introduction pa lang about deforestation, ang mga na-discuss.
We will be profoundly discussing more at dahil dyan, we've invited a guest na isang environmentalist para naman mas malaman natin at mas maintindihan natin yung mga recent happenings in our surroundings, right?
Can't wait to have a discussion with the guest. Di dapat natin palagpasin ng mga ganitong pagkakataon na to, no, na magtanong tayo and then i-share din sa mga nakikinig sa atin. Let us welcome our guest.
Hi, Sir Raf Dionisio. Can you give us a short introduction about yourself?
Sure, and thank you for having me here. I'm really grateful to be able to share and just to get the chance to talk to a lot of other people. Yeah, so I'm an entrepreneur. I'm focused mainly on poverty of people and planet, which is very intimately intertwined. Kasama yan, and I guess that's why I've spent the last, I would say, 7 years of my career trying to focus on deforestation and how to combat that.
We have a few questions for you, sir. And the first question is, what are the primary causes of deforestation?
I would say mankind is the primary cause of deforestation because it is a resource that we need and therefore gagamitin siya ng tao. However, it is fortunately a renewable resource, so we can restore it, but unfortunately man definitely has not put enough time into restoring it. Perhaps the lack of foresight, the lack of long-term thinking. That's my summary at least.
Nakakalungkot nga po na mankind ang dahilan ng deforestation. Our next question po is, why is it significant to fight deforestation?
Well, the main reason, one of the reasons kasi why man uses it is diba, it's either land or lumber na. So the two L's. And if people want to stop it, then there has to be a way to connect the forest like into the economy, because right now people only see it as, oh, it's a forest, it's alienable land and disposable land, let's turn it into something that makes money, whether they use the land or they use the lumber or they use both. And in the end we lose out on that, no? And when we lose out on that forest ecosystem, there's flooding, there's stronger rains, it gets hotter. When the soil's hit by sunlight, the water underneath starts to evaporate at a much quicker pace, right? And so you suddenly have more moisture in the air, more water vapor. So it adds to our humidity, diba? Versus the water staying underground. It's the same effect as carbon. You release the carbon into the atmosphere, you release the water vapor into the atmosphere. So thus you have the greenhouse effect of global warming, and then you have the enhanced storms, right? Which we see every year now, right? I guess it started with Yolanda, Ondoy, and recently Typhoon Rai. The other side of it is the forest, kasi it's your invisible water storage system. So some farmers that I've worked with, pag nagkukwento sila, sasabihin nila, ay, mas okay dati because we used to have 3 crops a year of rice. So I was like, okay, why did you have 3 crops here before? And they said, well, because we had water. Today we don't have enough water. So I look out into the mountains behind the rice fields and ask them, so what changed in the mountainside? Some people would say it's global warming, so marami ng tao, but the reality is that many trees were cut, and not all trees are created equal. In some areas, mountain sides were turned into coconut plantations. There's still trees, but a coconut will hold maybe just 1/10 or even less of the water that, let's say, Palo Sapis or Lawaan would hold. No? So in those high slopes, in those high areas, you really need the water storage ability of the forest. And pag nawala yun, it's us down below that really gets affected, right? And we don't see it because it's invisible. They don't teach it primarily in school. And that's why for myself, I'm very excited that my own team is coming up with online educational materials for schools that can teach this kind of stuff, because it is an invisible metric within the ecosystem. And it sounds complicated, diba? But once you get it, madali na siya. No? And I'm optimistic just because the indigenous groups that I get to work with, the Aitas, the Magats, gets ng elders nila. So, yun yung maganda.
Napakalaki po talaga ng epekto nito sa hindi lang sa ating kalikasan po, no, kundi naapektuhan din tayo as a person kasi yun nga po, may flooding na nangyayari, may iba't ibang sakuna na hindi din natin po makokontrol dahil nga po sa kagagawan din po natin. So for the third question po is, what will happen if we don't stop deforestation?
You'll have drought, magkaka-water problem ka. When you have a water problem, you have business disruption. When you have a water problem, your food prices go up. When you have a water problem, you have flooding. So, masisira yung infrastructure. And when that happens also, you will create unnecessary poverty just because the people who live by riversides in low areas and people who are farming will bear the brunt. And that's a chain effect because they're at the front line, so to speak. And eventually, it will hit us. Like today, we experienced the inflation in gasoline because of supply issue. How much is diesel now?
Parang 70 na po siya.
Yeah, I remember 2015, 16, it was probably at 20 pesos per liter, somewhere
Parang
there.
nabutan ko po yung 28.
So imagine if water prices increase. That's a real issue because no one can operate without water. If there's no fuel, we can walk. But if there's no water, good luck to us.
Grabe, no? Sobrang, parang it's all connected. Parang domino effect siya. Lahat sa business, sa price ng gas. And with that being said, since deforestation is an essential subject that affects every one of us, why do you think that only few people participate in the struggle to protect the forest?
Well, one is they don't know. They don't know that there's a problem. I think that's mostly the concern. They don't understand how it affects them because it's a systemic issue that is too big. Naturally, people, if they know about it, then they will say that's the government's problem. Our government does not have a good history with protecting or growing forests. And so I'm hoping as the elections come in and it'll usher a new generation or a new batch of government leaders. Whoever wins, I hope that they take this forest bit seriously because without water, people will go to war, will fight for it. And we've already seen examples of it in Mindanao where there's drought, the farmers will ask for help. And if the government doesn't respond, then it's an opportunity for the Abu Sayyaf, the NPA to swoop in and help these people who need help. I guess that's why whenever I speak about the forest, I just talk about forest and water. Kasi they have to come together as a pair. Hindi siya pwedeng, it's easier to explain at least that way.
From your perspective naman po, sir, why is it hard to stop deforestation?
Kasi hindi nga alam ng tao. Kung ikaw, nag-graduate ka in the last 10 years, hindi mo alam, paano pa kaya nag-graduate 30, 40 years ago? Impossible. Diba? It's an unrealistic expectation for them to understand something that we ourselves did not study. And assuming na mas maganda na yung information that we have at our disposal. The other side is when it is planted, it's hard to protect because people will cut trees in the name of poverty, in the name of feeding my family, right? Short-term gain or long-term loss. Pero bahala na bukas, basta ngayon, pwede akong kumain. And that really is part of the issue. Like I've personally seen with the communities that we work with. What we're trying to do today, in fact, I was just there last week, we're hoping to reforest 3,000 hectares of ancestral domain in Zambales with and for the community. So the idea is to work with them on restoring several hectares of land. So there's a rainforest area at the top of each mountain. Dun yung forest trees, no? Native, mga Nara, Palasapis, Tibig. Pero dating mo sa baba, we have take into account the economic needs of people. Kasi at least in that area, clean slate. Sira talaga lahat because of Pinatubo and the lumber concessions in the 70s. What we're planting there is a cashew agroforest. So we're intercropping cashew with different trees, stuff that will grow in the near desert-like conditions of Zambales. And then we're also growing fuel wood agroforest because one of the needs that the forest supplies is firewood. Construction wood and firewood. Those are two basic necessities of people. This year, we're planting 52 hectares. We're very grateful because we were able to work with partners who helped fund this. Nadine Lustre posted about it a couple of times, our NGO partner for the future, and then skincare brand called Bioten that sponsors Nadine will match the donations then. So with that kind of partnership, I'm excited kasi mabubuo nang mas mabilis yung agroforest area. The community is super excited about it. And there has to be a certain scale to the planting so that, let's say after 2 years, pag nag-mature na yung mga puno, sobrang dami na niya that even if every family gets from that agroforest, it's just too much for them. So they can already start selling sa baba. But we'll still need to train them on like, what's the what is the maximum supply you can give per month or per year, something like that. The cashew naman is more of like a fruit tree concept. So we need to teach people how to look at the value of the trees themselves, the grass, the fruit. No? So there's a lot of food and non-food processing science that has to come in. No? And admittedly, mahina ang Pilipinas sa ganyan. Most of our companies here are trading companies. They're not production companies. I think last DTI stat I checked, parang less than 20% of Philippine companies are producers. Yung processors. Sorry, no. It's easy to be a farmer. It's easy to be a trader, but who is the processor, right? We need those processors who can create that value-adding thing. And so, ako personally, we're trying to build a forest economy, no? Whether it's in food, in tourism, in non-food materials. Kasi without that kind of forest economy, we'll never protect the forest. That's for sure. Mas madali pa nga iprotektahan yung dagat kasi yung dagat, you can appeal to, yung beach natin masisira. And so pag enjoy yung tao sa isang lugar, they'll protect it, diba? You protect what you love. The forest is a bit harder because there's hardly any left. That's the reality.
Yeah. Naalala ko nga po dito yung mga trees na pinutol, maitayo lang yung isang mall sa Baguio. Nakakabahala po. But at the same time, nakakaramdam din po ako ng hope sa mga projects na binanggit nyo. Pero kayo naman po, based on your own experience and knowledge, what is needed to stop deforestation?
Well, you definitely need more people involved, more organizations involved. There's a science part to it. Kasi not everyone will the goodness of their hearts. Some people will. Some people will be like, wala namang pera dyan. But we can show that there is. So you can do good for the planet, do good for yourself. Why not? That's even better, diba? That's the whole point. So we do need support in volunteers, in like incubation, in financing for creating those forest-based products, right? Could be as simple as bamboo for construction. I'm hoping that I can launch sometime later in the year, trying it out with the Dumagat. Or like here, we have we're piloting cashews. So we can supply to different cashew processors in the Philippines kasi most of our cashews imported also from Vietnam. So I'm sure we can undercut the price or at least go parity and it's fresher. Eventually, we will need people to put their money, to start spending on the forest economy. Let's put it this way. Right now, yung mga binibili natin, yung kinukuha niyang resources are either not renewable, so oil-based, or kumukuha sila from the forest but they don't return it. You're not accounting for the right cost. Diba? And so, parang withdraw ka lang ng withdraw sa bank account mo, hindi na napupuno. Whereas, if we're able to set up the forest economy right, let's say we're able to come up with sustainable charcoal or sustainable lumber, then you can keep building with wood or you can keep, cooking your barbecue, pero hindi na ubos yung gubat. One family is like one tree every week. But if you use yung parang sustainable, yung mga machine produced charcoal, and then you can include other additives into it, organic waste, then you might only need one tree a month. So 4 times the productivity and then twice the heat pa. O di lang 8 times the productivity. So there are things that so kaya siya. There are scientific solutions to our needs.
So need talaga natin na gumawa rin ng mga organization about this kasi parang iilan lang din po yung alam ko na merong organization about sa forest kasi mostly parang hindi din siya napagtutuunan po ng pansin. Tsaka lang po nagrereklamo or nagdedemand ng yung mga tao kapag po dumating na po yung natural calamities. Di ba po? So, second to the last question po, do you think in the future deforestation will be stopped?
That depends on you. I'm sure that my life will be dedicated to restoring the forest or supporting products that are renewable in nature, diba? But that depends on other people. How do you decide, diba? Let's say napunod mo to. Knowing na, kailangan ko pala may kailangan pala akong palitan kasi sinisira. Or making our home risky with floods or risky with drought. Paano natin kapalitan? Bibilin ko ba yung produkto na pinapatay yung gubat or do I buy the product that protects it? diba? Because eventually, magkakaroon kayo ng simple as siguro palm oil is one of the best examples in the world, diba? You can buy palm oil from, let's say, South America, where they have to destroy the Amazon forest to put up the plantation, which means to get your oil, umatay ka ng gubat. Or you can buy palm oil from farmer in Zambales na Lahar area, ginawang palm plantation instead. I'm using palm oil kasi it's often a example, an item na is antagonized. Parang lagi siyang hinihiritan, evil yung palm oil, ganyan. But it is also the most efficient oil-producing plant in the world. So if you convert all your palm oil into coconut oil, you'd need more space. So palm oil is the most efficient. But they're just not planting the palm oil in the right places. Diba? Kasi ang dami ng kalbo, why not just plant in those areas na kalbo versus destroying the virgin stuff? So there are things like that we need to take into consideration talaga. It's a mindfulness issue. I think it can be stopped, but again, it depends on what people do with it after nun. So in many ways, very dependent din siya on how we're able to get into the educational system to teach it. Kasi hindi siya parang plastic na pwede mong ihirit na medyo madaling paliwanag yung plastic na problema. Because it's visible, madumi siya, minsan mabaho. The forest problem is harder to communicate. And so that's why we really need the school system involved in it. It's not just NGOs or social enterprises, and it's not just the government. Kailangan talaga school system yan.
Ayun nga po, sana nga po it will be stopped soon para din po sa kapakanan ng lahat, no? So last question, sir. What do you think the world will look like in 10 years?
I think the world in 10 years will depend on what each of you decide to do with the resources you consume. So we'll keep planting. Some other people will keep planting, pero we need more people kasi to make the decision to protect what's there. And so I guess it depends on how well people are taught. So hard to say kung aakit ba talaga yung sa Pilipinas na natin. Siyempre big swing yung sa government. Even bigger swing are the individuals like each of us in this chat and everyone else who's listening. There's a law about it. Let's enforce it. You're supposed to plant one tree for you every year that you're here on Earth. And if you guys want to plant, we do have tree planting activities. You don't even have to come. You can just adopt the tree and we'll take care of it for 3 years, and you just get updates twice a year on kamusta na yung forest area. And you can also support forest products like honey, cashew butter, cashew coffee, and stay tuned then for bamboo.
Okay po. So,
Yes, sir.
grabe no, sobrang laki ng problema natin when it comes sa forest kasi mostly ang talagang napagtutunan ng pansin is puro sa dagat.
Sobrang fruitful po ng discussion na ito. I hope we can ask more. Apparently, hanggang dito na lang po nagtatapos ang ating discussion.
Yes po.
Gusto lang po namin kayong itanong, Sir Raf Dionisio, kung meron po ba kayong karagdagang gustong sabihin, iparating, ipapromote, advocacy yan na gusto niya pa pong i-share.
Para po marami din pong makarinig at marami din pong makisali na lalo na yung mga kabataan po, no, na
Yes, sir.
mag-plant po sila ng trees.
Sige, sana magtanim kayo ng puno. You can check out our website at madtravel.org or Instagram, madtravel_ph, or Facebook, ganun din yung pangalan. Or my personal, Raf Dionisio. Sana magtanim tayong lahat. And pwede naman siyang masaya. Every rainy season nagtatanim, and then every 4 months after, we do tree nurturing activities para hindi mamatay yung punong tanim. So, salamat!
There you go! In fairness naman, no, sa ating episode for today, ang dami kong na-realize, natutunan na kailangan pala natin na paigtingin ng edukasyon about deforestation kasi ang dami sa atin, walang may alam tungkol dito, di ba? And kitang-kita naman natin yan dahil sa nangyayari sa forest natin dahil nakakalbo na. With the help of government as well, kailangan na paigtingin yung batas about this. Kasi for sure talaga na tayong lahat be-benefit doon sa batas na yon. Kung may natural calamities man, hindi din tayo ganun ka-apektado. Special thanks to our guest for today. Ikaw ba, Ina, ano ang take mo for today's episode?
Alam mo, actually, tama ka dyan. Ako naman, yung nakuha ko is yung kahalagahan talaga ng tree planting. Tsaka yung mga organization na sumusuporta sa kanilang mga project. I mean, mas madami, mas mapapabilis yung pagsumpo nating lahat sa deforestation, right? So, ayun, sana yung mga nakikinig din sa atin, may natutunan sila sa atin, Bea, tsaka sa ating guest, para naman maging aware yung mga tao sa kalagayan ng kagubatan natin ngayon.
That's it, guys. Thank you for listening for today's episode.
I hope marami ulit kayong natutunan, and of course, maraming salamat kay Sir Dionisio. That's all for today. I'm Ina,
And I'm Bea.
and this is TREElogy. Bye!